Hi guys! Last month it was my birthday, and as you can see from this pile next to me, I have been absolutely spoiled. I had a few people on TikTok ask if I could do like a birthday gift haul, and I've decided that I am going to share with you guys the books that I got because I am a very lucky girl. I really want to share these books with you guys because I've actually not heard of a lot of them and they sound so cool. So I wanted to share them with you guys as like potentially inspiration for you guys and what books you guys could look into, but also if anyone has read any of these, you can let me know which to start with because I am spoilt for choice. I've made notes about all of the books. Some of them I know a bit more about than others because some of them are ones that I'd like wanted and my family members knew I wanted. Some of them also it was easier to find stuff about online, especially the non-fiction ones. The fiction ones I don't know too much about because I've tried my best to not research too much so as to keep the spoiler free. Genre wise, just so you guys know what you're getting into, I have a lot of anthropology and linguistics, which I think I'm going to start explaining first. I also have quite a few classics and I have a lot of historical fiction, which I've not really read before, so I'm really excited to start because it looks so brilliant. Okay, let me start by sharing my non-fiction books. Starting off, I have Noam Chomsky's On Language. This is apparently two of his most popular works, and what's really great about them is apparently they are really accessible and also written really informally, which is great for me because as much as I love linguistics and I'm very interested in it, I've never actually studied it and I've not read much about it. However, this apparently is really great to start with, so I'm very excited. Part 1 is called Language and Responsibility and it was released in 1979, and this one is a series of interviews that Noam Chomsky did with a French linguist called Mazzola. I've probably pronounced that quite wrong. I'm probably going to be pronouncing a lot of names wrong today. This one apparently is Noam Chomsky's personal thoughts on linguistics and also political and moral thinking as well, which is very interesting. And then part 2 is called Reflections on Language and it was published in 1975. This one is more so about general implications of linguistics, and what I find really cool about that one, I've obviously not read it, but apparently it really interlinks psychology, philosophy and linguistics, and I think like that is probably where I'm most comfortable with linguistics. I was going to say I'm most interested, but I don't think it's that I'm more interested in those areas. I think it's just because I have a philosophy background. Because if you're a regular viewer, you know that I dropped out of university and I was studying philosophy, but I actually got into philosophy for psychology and I just switched last minute. So where like philosophy, psychology and linguistics marry, that's probably where I'd be most comfortable and where I probably have a basis of understanding already. So I'm glad that there's one about that because I feel like I'll be able to kind of know what's going on. Next, I have Language, Culture and Society, An Introduction to Linguistic Anthropology by Zdeněk Salzmaan. This is like a linguistic anthropology textbook, which is really cool. This is also from my boyfriend. And apparently this is really holistic. I've read that it tries to include data from all subfields of anthropology. The only complaint I've seen about this is that this is the 2nd edition and it was published in 1993, so it is a bit outdated. Apparently the 7th edition, I was reading about it. I don't know how many editions are out already, but I was reading about the 7th edition. I think that one is a lot more recent and it talks about like language and gender, race and class and how language helps to shape identity, which is so interesting. It talks about language and power, and it also talks about how online communication and social media has changed how we interact, which is like all of these things are like things I'm super interested in. So I think if I enjoy this, I might try get the new edition, although I don't know whether it would be better at that point to get another book that's more specifically about those things, but we'll see because I have a lot of books to get through. So when I finish this one, then I can think about it. Also, if there's any linguistic or anthropology students, please like give me recommendations because again, this is not something I've actually studied, but it is something I'm so interested in. So please let me know, give me all like the insider scoop. Next, I have the last one that I got from my boyfriend, and it is Daniel Everett's Don't Sleep, There Are Snakes. This was recommended to me by my cousin's husband. I think he did a master's in anthropology and sociology, and when I was talking to him about it, he recommended this book. He said that this isn't strictly a like linguistic anthropology book, but it definitely really goes into that, and like if I'm interested in that kind of stuff, I'll be interested in this. And oh, I believe him just from reading the blurb. This is written about when Daniel Everett was a Christian missionary and he took his wife and I think 3 children to this really remote area of Brazil to try and convert a small Amazonian tribe. And what he found was apparently a language that defied all existing linguistic theories at the time, including Chomsky's. So I'm very excited to read both of these and see what they both have to say. For example, and like when I was reading this stuff, I was literally like, wait, this is so interesting, and it's stuff I think about like quite a lot, so I'm excited to actually like hear about it. Apparently the language has no counting system and has no fixed terms for colors, and also there's no war and there's no such thing as personal property either, which is like, I'm so excited to read about this. Also apparently the tribe is like totally in the present, and like not to like go off topic, but I've been thinking about this so much recently, right? And this is kind of inspired by like the first few pages of Sapiens. The guy who wrote Sapiens was explaining how like the reason why human language is so unique is because we're able to talk about things that don't exist. I was talking to my friend about this, and I was saying how like as brilliant as it is that we have a method to communicate things that don't exist, and how great that is for like organization and for just like learning and whatnot, it also surely has some drawbacks. So one thing, for example, that I've not finished, this is like the seed of the thought, I've not reached a conclusion yet, but I was thinking about how like surely a lot of philosophical problems come from the fact that we give language so much authority. And I mean specifically like metaphysical problems, where we invent a lot of these problems through language. And I think Wittgenstein said this, I might just be stealing what Wittgenstein said, but I can't entirely remember what he said. If we use language to determine what is real and to talk about what is real, and like if you believe that language shapes reality, surely a lot of the problems we have with reality are problems with our language. Do these metaphysical problems exist outside of the language we use, or do we create these problems through our ways of talking about reality? I don't know. That's my seed of the thought. I'll see what I decide. I am curious though, are there any people who are bilingual in the chat, right? And if you guys studied philosophy in different languages, do metaphysical problems change depending on the language? Although like either way, that wouldn't prove or disprove what I'm saying, because it might be a problem of language as a whole as opposed to individual languages. But that's one thing I've been thinking about. The other thing I've been thinking about with like human language allowing us to talk about things that don't exist is that surely takes us out of the present a lot. And obviously that's not necessarily a bad or good thing. The fact that I'm able to think constantly about things that don't exist, I'm able to think about the future, I'm able to think about the past, I'm able to think about, oh, is that person mad at me? Can I like, you know, create an image of what they're probably thinking about and like make that up in a way, because I don't actually know whether that's true or not. Surely that is taking me out of the present a lot. And if I try and like take away language's authority, there are other ways for me to communicate with the external world. Anyways, that's all just to say that I'm really excited to hear how this tribe lives entirely in the present and how language plays a role in that. So I'm so excited to read this one. Thank you so much to my boyfriend for buying me this, and thank you so much to my cousin's husband for recommending this, because this one's going to be brilliant. Next, I have a present from my mum, and this is Richard Elliot Friedman's Who Wrote the Bible. I love theology so much. I'm not Christian. I don't know really what I am. I'd say I lean very atheist, and there are some religions that like I do feel an understanding of, and like I do get what they're saying. I think particularly maybe like Buddhism and Sufism. I do feel like I could be Sufi and I could be Buddhist, but I've not done too much research about them. I'm definitely not Christian though. However, my mum is Christian, and I actually was raised Christian up until a certain age, and then I decided it's not really for me. So when I was in sixth form and I was studying philosophy, theology and ethics, and in the theology part we talk a lot about Christianity, I would speak to my mum quite a lot about it, and she found it really, really interesting because obviously like she's been a diehard Christian since day one. But yeah, I am such a theology lover, so I'm very excited to read this. Apparently, from what I've read, this uses history, literary criticism and archaeological evidence to figure out who wrote the Bible. And also apparently it talks about why there are inconsistencies in the Bible and also in the way that God is portrayed in the Bible. So it's just all stuff I love. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to learn. I'm so excited to read. I really like reading nonfiction, so very, very excited. Moving on, this one is also non-fiction, but slightly different to the other ones that I've shared. This was gifted to me by my best friend, and this is Toward a Psychology of Awakening, Buddhism, Psychotherapy, and the Path of Personal and Spiritual Transformation by John Welwood. Before she bought me this copy, she'd been reading it and she had read me quite a lot of sections, and this had me hooked. So I'm very, very happy that I have my own copy now and I can read it. I think something she said that really struck her when she was reading it was that a lot of what this book talks about are things that her and I talk about in a lot of detail. She was explaining it's almost like a nice consolidation of like all our conversations. Apparently John Welwood had written 6 books before this one, and this one is almost like a summary of the previous 6, and it particularly goes into integrating the spirituality of Buddhism with Western psychological insight, which is so up my alley. Like honestly, she popped off so hard with this. I grew up in Asia and my dad was a monk, so I had a lot of those sorts of influences as a child. I then also, when I was older, studied psychology in England, and I really wanted to like pursue psychology as a career. So I've definitely like really delved into both sides of that. And something I have struggled with is marrying the two, because in a lot of cases the two almost seem to contradict each other. This is like very poorly summarizing these very nuanced topics, but I think a lot of Eastern spirituality is about letting go of the self and looking outward, whereas so much of Western psychology is really hyper individualistic in my opinion. And again, this is like very, very like, these are very nuanced conversations that I'm like shrinking right down. It's very much about looking inward and analyzing the self in a way that's very methodological, and I don't always agree with that, although I do feel like there is room for that. I don't really even like the terms Eastern and Western. I feel like they're very poor umbrella terms because like there's so much variation within those terms. So yeah, I've struggled a bit with kind of marrying the two, and apparently this book does a really good job of it. It says at the bottom of the blurb, "Here is a guide for all those who who strive to integrate the psychological and the spiritual sides of human existence and to live in a balanced and harmonious way. I'd love to do that, so clearly I'm gonna have to read this book. All of the next books were so kindly gifted to me by one of my mutuals. Alex is worth it. I don't know if she watches my YouTube, but like, genuinely, this is like one of the best birthday presents I've ever received in my life. Like, I cannot stress how touched I was by this. And also, like, I'm touched by the gesture, but like the content, genuinely every single one of these books, I was sat with my partner opening them and I was like, how does she know? Almost all of the books I'm about to share I have not heard of, and I don't think I would have necessarily been drawn to if I'd seen them in a bookshop, because like I really know what genres I like and I really stick to them. And I think that's a bit of a problem because I don't really like expand my horizons. I don't really like expand my taste, and I think I'd benefit from doing that. And I'm so glad because I have received this like perfectly personalized book pile, and they're all genres that I've been really wanting to read but I've been scared to try. And there we go. Now I have no excuse. So I'm super, super excited to dive in. I'm probably not going to be able to go into as much detail as I did with the previous 4 books because I've not done as much research into these books. I have read the blurb, and also Alex sent me like little explanations of what the books are about and why she picked them out for me. But yeah, just know this is going to be spoiler free because like I've wanted to keep this spoiler free for myself as well. I'm going to start with the 3. I think they are like historical fiction kind of, but like that's a very broad genre. But these are all based on real things that have happened apparently. Starting off with Anna Mazzola's The Book of Secrets. This is based on a true story, and this is apparently about women who were called witches because like they were using herbs to like escape their abusive husbands or something. And apparently at the end, like everything comes together. Even against the splendor of the eternal city, Girolamo's secret recipes are the women's most precious possessions and their husbands' most feared. So when men are reported dying in unnatural numbers, the gaze of Stefano Bracci, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, prosecutor of the papal authorities, falls quickly on Girolamo and her suspected sorcery. So sick. I was literally thinking about witches actually recently. I don't know much about like the Salem witch trials. Like I don't really know much about history. I'd love to learn more. So if anyone else has any like history recommendations, drop them in the comments. But I was thinking about how I feel like the way that we're taught about like the Salem witch trials in school, and like we were taught very briefly. I think we were taught because we were reading The Crucible. We weren't actually like taught it as a thing. And the way people talk about it is very like gimmicky and funny and like, oh my god, haha, like people were burned for being witches, people were drowned for being witches. And I was thinking about it this morning for some reason, maybe because I knew I was going to record this video. I don't think we're taught about it as like deeply as we should be. That's actually crazy. That's actually disgusting that like women were killed, and like I don't know, it's taught as like a funny joke. I think it's taught in a way that like mythology is taught, where it's like, whoa, this kind of awful thing happened, but like it's so crazy and interesting and all these supernatural forces, and it's like, no, like women were legit killed. We were only taught through The Crucible, which maybe makes sense why it was like taught in a sensationalized way because we were reading a play, but like I don't know, I feel like there should have been a bit more sensitivity. Anyway, so I'm very excited to read this because clearly witches have been on the mind, and apparently it all comes together in the end. I feel like I really want to read more like, I don't know if this is necessarily like a female rage book, but like books about women getting their revenge on abusive husbands and then have a happy ending. I don't know if it necessarily has a happy ending actually, but from what Alex said, it sounds like it does. I used to be so into feminist literature and I actually just had to take a break because so much of it is awful, because it's awful stuff to stomach. I think Andrea Dworkin, there's a quote by her, and it's something like, a lot of women choose not to be feminists because it is so difficult to be constantly aware of the fact that you are objectified and dehumanized by most men, if not all men, constantly. I think more books about angry women getting revenge on men that end happily, please give them to me because I think I would really, really benefit from reading them. I would absolutely love to. Next I have Maggie O'Farrell's The Marriage Portrait. Again, I really have like a certain taste. I tend to just stick to classics, which like, I don't know, it's a bit pretentious, but I think like I said, I really know what I like, and I know I like classics, so and there's so many of them that it's like, I still have plenty to get through, so I really tend to stick to like the old Penguin Black classics, like truly the most pretentious shit. I know I like it, there's so much, I stick to it. However, when I read the back of this, I was like, I need to start reading more. Like I need to start reading different stuff because like, okay, first of all, what Alex said about the book. Apparently this is also based on a true story, and it's about a young rebellious girl from a wealthy family who is forced to marry an older man that she does not want to marry, and then the timeline switches. And I assume the timeline switch is what they're talking about on the blurb. In the winter of 1561, Lucrezia is taken on an unexpected visit to a country villa by her husband Alfonso. As they sit down to dinner, it occurs to her that their journey to this lonely place has a sinister purpose. He intends to kill her. I need to know how this ends. I need to know what they're talking about. Anyways, so that sounds really, really brilliant. Next I have Andrei Kurkov's The Silver Bone. This is apparently like a detective crime kind of book, which Alex said she doesn't normally read, and I don't normally read either, but she said apparently this is very, very good, and this also has a bit of dark humor as well. I'm very excited because yeah, I don't read crime or detective stuff at all, but I remember as a kid I did a bit. I think I read Sherlock Holmes, and I think we had to read like, I think The Woman in Black in school, and that was like another book that we had to read in school that was like quite like a mystery kind of book, and I really, really like them. I just like, again, I just don't really know what to read, so I just stick with what I know. But this one, I'm very, very excited to read. This is by a Ukrainian author, and it's set in 1917 to 1918, I think she said. I'm very, very excited to read because it sounds like the kind of style of book that I'd like in terms of like the surrealism and stuff, and also the dark humor. And also I just really, really want to read some crime. So yeah. Next I have the Empusium? Yeah, I don't know this word, guys. I'm so sorry. Dumb Sogures 3 moment. It's okay, guys. I'm just joking. It's okay not to know. A health resort horror story by Olga Tokarczuk, my queen. Except not really my queen because I gave away the one book that I had by her. I had tried very, very hard to read Drive Your Plough Over the Bones of the Dead. I think I'd spoken about it before actually on here. I was really, really trying to read it, guys. And I literally was right at the end, but I just couldn't. And one of my friends really wanted to read it and I gave it to them and they said they loved it. And right, just quickly before I go into this, I need to like defend why I gave the book away. I really like the way that Olga Tokarczuk writes. I think that she has a beautiful way of thinking. I think that the way that she writes is beautiful. My only grievance with that book, and I don't know whether this book does it as well, but I really, really struggle reading non-linear books, like where the narrative's quite like, it jumps a lot chronologically. I just can't. Like any kind of like very fragmented kind of book. It's a shame because I feel like the type of book I like in terms of like the existential, like, you know, stream of conscience kind of books, they're all written in that style. And it's a shame because I love existential stream of conscience books, but I hate when the chronology is just all over the place. I don't know if it's like because I have ADHD or something, but I just feel like I can't latch onto that as well, because for me, how I read is I get like stuck into a book. That is the only way I'm able to read. I can't like dip my toes in and out. I need to go into like a blackout for days where I'm just like only reading and I'm like forgetting to drink water because I'm just like only in like reading. That's the only way that I can get any reading done. And I feel like the issue with non-linear storytelling is that like it's so easy to like start and stop because like the next page suddenly you're like somewhere else and you're again kind of like you don't really know what's going on. And I feel like because it's not like a constant like hook and then they just reel you in for the whole book. It's like a hook and then they let you go, and then they hook and then they let you go. And it's just too easy to just be like, okay, well, I'm done with that chapter, time to do something else. And then I forget about the book. And I had this issue with The Book of Disquiet, which is like a book I have been desperate to finish, but like I just can't. Olga Tokarczuk's Drive Your Plough Over the Bones of the Dead, and also Clarice Lispector. But I've only read, which was it by her? The one that starts and her dad's like, oh, my little egg. If anyone knows, you know. That one is also non-linear, and I loved the first chapter, and then I got to the second chapter and then I was like, okay, well now something new's happening. And that was another book that I loved. What I read, I absolutely gobbled up, but I couldn't read anymore. Anyways, moving on to whatever this says. I'm very excited for this because guys, I'm a scaredy cat. I don't like horror at all. I can't do horror, but I'm going to push myself because I want to like horror. And I feel like every time I've like had to read a horror book, I like really don't like it while I'm reading it. But afterwards I think about it a lot and I reflect on it a lot. And I need to get over the fact that I'm a scaredy cat. Okay, I'm 21. I need to read one horror book. And it's going to be this one. In September 1913, a young Pole suffering from tuberculosis arrives at Wilhelm Oppitz's guest house for gentlemen, a health resort in the Silesian mountains. Every evening, the residents gather to imbibe the hallucinogenic local liquor and debate the great issues of the day. Monarchy or democracy? Do devils exist? Are women born inferior? Meanwhile, disturbing things are happening in the guest house and the surrounding hills. Someone or something attempts to be watching, attempting to infiltrate this cloistered world. Little does this newcomer realize as he tries to unravel both the truth within himself and the mystery of the sinister forces beyond, that they have already chosen their next target. Okay, a century after the publication of The Magic Mountain, Olga Tokarczuk revisits Thomas Mann's territory and lays claim to it, blending horror story, comedy, folklore, and feminist parable with brilliant storytelling. Okay, as long as it's in chronological order, I'm gonna eat this one up. Also, guys, I don't know if you've seen, but like, ignore this. This is eyeliner because I was trying to figure out how I'd look with hand tattoos. I'm trying to figure out next tattoo placement, guys. Sorry, this is like very off topic. I just want some more, I think, and hand tattoos are really calling me. I think I also want something there. Ooh, sorry, I've been leaning my hand on my desk. But yeah, I want something there, I think. That's a cool placement. I think I want something written, maybe. But yeah, this is kind of calling my name. Ignore how like fugly these scribbles are. It was very dark and I couldn't really see what I was doing, and I'm right-handed, so I just kind of like scribbled random shapes onto my hands. Next, I have Bonjour, Tristesse. Guys, I have Bonjour, Tristesse by, right guys, I should know this name. I love a singer with this name. However, I've only ever seen it written down. Francis Sagan. Anyways. Ooh, I just read the top, what the Times have to say about this. Funny, immoral, and thoroughly French. I'm excited to figure out what the hell they mean by that. Alex said that this is the perfect summer read apparently, and also that the author was only 17 when this was written, and she said that it is brilliant, but when you keep in mind that she is 17, it's really like so insanely talented. Published when she was only 18. I assume written when she was 17, published when she was 18. It tells the story of Cecile, who leads a carefree life with her widowed father and his young mistresses until one hot summer on the Riviera, he decides to remarry with devastating consequences. Oh, and it's 2 books. In A Certain Smile, Dominique, a young woman bored of her lover, begins an encounter with an older man that unfolds in unexpected and troubling ways. These stylish, shimmering, and immoral tales had explicit sexual scenes removed for English publication in the 1950s. Now these fresh and accurate translations present the uncensored text of Sagan masterpieces in full. Very exciting. What was this young 17-year-old doing writing all this scandalous stuff? Okay, and last I have 3 books that I'm very excited about because they're so beautiful, and I have seen lots of people posting these books and I've been like, no. Basically, I think the crux of my shopping addiction is like I am so tempted by beautiful things, and when I saw these books I was like, I really want to buy them, but I'm trying my best to like not allow myself to buy things just because they're beautiful, and I didn't have to because someone bought them for me. The Penguin Archive, except one of them I've already got ink on. They are so beautiful. Bro, I'm such a sucker for things that are beautiful. Also, not only are they beautiful, but these are 3 books that I really am excited to read. So it's like win-win-win, you know, wins all around. First, I have Fyodor Dostoevsky's The Dream of a Ridiculous Man. I've not actually heard about this short story, but my boyfriend, who is a Dostoevsky freak, okay, I've definitely spoken about this before, but he taught himself Russian fluently when he was 13 on Duolingo and like some other websites because he loved Dostoevsky so much. First of all, who reads Dostoevsky that young? I know some people do, right? But like, still a bit concerning, you know? And apparently he loved Dostoevsky so much, but he was really freaked out about the fact that like, you know how like translations are never entirely accurate, and he really wanted to read Dostoevsky in Russian, so he just taught himself Russian at 13. Bad boy as fuck. And he, of course, apparently has heard of The Dream of a Ridiculous Man, and he asked if he could borrow this because he really wants to read it. And I think this is a few stories because I've read one of these. A delusional man whose strange dream changes his life. I assume that's The Dream of a Ridiculous Man. A self-justifying husband who causes his wife suicide. That is the meek one. I didn't enjoy the meek one. I liked it. It was like a good written book, but it was really upsetting. I had to like give my copy away because I was like, I don't even want to look at it. Like, so I will be skipping that one because as good as it is, I do not want to reread that. And a writer who stretches out on a gravestone and listens to the gossip of the dead. The narrators of these 4 confessional tales. Wait, sorry, I missed one in that case. I only read 3. Oh, a witness to a young girl's ruin. The narrators of these 4 confessional tales show how little we understand ourselves. Hell yes. This one I'm so excited for. The Emperor's New Clothes. Oh yes, what a classic. Jewels of Storytelling. Oh wait, there's a few as well. Oh my god, amazing. Jewels of Storytelling, these magical fairy tales by Hans Christian Andersen were inspired by his own life as an outsider. Oh. From The Little Mermaid to The Red Shoes, his fables show the ugliest of humanity, its power, greed, vanity. Oh wait, I've never actually like, a lot of these stories are like classics that obviously like you hear in some shape or form, but I've not actually read Hans Christian Andersen's tales. It's not him that had like actually the really dark ones, right? I don't know much about like children's classic tales, but yeah, sounding quite sad. These fables show the ugliest of humanity, its power, greed, vanity, but also how suffering can lead to beauty. Very excited. And last but not least, I have Eileen Chang's Jasmine Tea. In this haunting collection of stories, a young man's obsession leads to tragedy, and a woman's bitterness poisons a family's legacy. In delicate, piercing prose, Chang captures a world of quiet cruelties and calamitous desires in pre-revolutionary China. Very excited. These sound a bit unsettling, and I feel like those will be quite nice to read. But yeah, those are all of the books that I got for my birthday. As you guys can see, I'm a very lucky girl. I was really spoiled this year. Oh my goodness. Boom bam. Please let me know what I should read next. I have been so horribly busy this past month. Like, it's been awful. I've not read at all, I think, this past month because I've just been like so busy. So I've not had time to actually start any of these yet. So please let me know what you think I should start with, because like truly not a single miss. It's like I almost feel choice paralysis at like which brilliant book should I start first, because like I could gobble them all up, you know, but I can't. I gotta go one by one. So like comment down below, let me know in chat which one I should start with, and if there's any that you particularly like, or if you have beef with any of them, but like don't tell me too much because I don't want to hear any spoilers, but like you can give me a bit of a summary, or you can like let me know the flavor of your grievances or the flavor of what you liked, you know. Anyways, I'm going to go now, but thank you so much for watching, and yeah, please like, subscribe, please comment all about books, all about anything, tell me about your day, and I'll see you guys next time. Also, please feel free to join the Sogger's free Discord. I'll leave the link in like the description. Yeah, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.